Hello everyone and welcome to the Nashville Super Speedway. It's Murph, it's Jacob Collins, and you know what that means. It's Monday night, it's the top split of the Indy Open iRacing Series, and we're live from the Nashville Super Speedway. It's the concrete monster that lives in Lebanon. Jacob, we just came here in the Fixed Oval Series. The experience during that race was fairly interesting. What about tonight? What are you expecting?
The Super and Super Speedway to mean what it says it means. It's going to be tight. It's going to be very, very, very draft heavy. It's going to be difficult to pass, I think, just given the narrow nature of this high banked. I guess we're calling it a short oval as much as I don't like to call it that, but it's going to be an interesting time to see who could survive this race.
You know, it most certainly will. It's this track is very unforgiving, especially off of turn number 2 over there. The track gets very narrow. It is banked, but it's not banked as high as you think. And it is very, very tight in the groove. It is not a track that you want to mess with being out of the groove, and it's not a track that you really want to be messing with dirty air in, is it, Jacob?
No, especially coming off of turn 4. The walls kind of come at you very, very quick. I kind of like to think of this track of a big Iowa, even if it is concrete. You know, the corners are kind of similar in shape. It's just kind of stretched out amongst the very, very long straightaways we've got here by comparison. So it's going to be an interesting case to navigate. The more cars, you kind of get congested towards that bottom lane around the track. You know, who's going to be able to hold it. But as we saw in the fixed race, it seems to be that you can hold it as long as you know where to put your car. So the more people that know where to put their car, like we have here in the top split here, it's going to be very interesting to see who can make any sort of moves to the front.
Speaking of knowing where to put your car, here's Nick Sudik. We're going to hop on the roll bar of the Fiercely Ford machine as he completes lap number 1, going for lap number 2. The first one, 25.792. Sudik, 6 quick, but the second lap is the money lap, isn't it, Jacob?
Yeah, a lot of these guys are going to be looking for that first lap to kind of get the tires up to temperature, get around the track, get their speed built up, and then lap 2 is going to be where they're going to try to hit their money shot.
Here he comes off of turn number 4. He's going to go all the way down to the apron as Nick Sudik. The second lap, 23.673. That's good enough for 197.773 miles an hour. And right now, Nick Sudik is the fastest on the racetrack. We got some different weather here tonight than we had in the fixed race, in the fixed oval race last week, Jacob. It's a little bit warmer, 86 on the track, or 86 in the air, 114 in the track. It's a day race, though. Your race last week was run in the evening, was it not?
I think our race was earlier on in the season. I do think it was kind of later in the afternoon, just a little bit, and I think it was a bit cooler. So we'll see if that plays any sort of difference. We're not anticipating too much of a change. As much as these cars are kind of weather dependent, it doesn't seem to have made a huge impact here, especially with the new short oval configuration aero we've got on these cars now.
And speaking of aero, that does add a ton of drag, and it's forcing these cars. Normally, we're a little bit quicker than real life in some places. Here, the IndyCar track record, 22.9685 miles an hour. Sam Hornish Jr. back in 2003. We are about, 7/10 of a second slower than that for pole sitter Alexander Russell. And speaking of the pole sitter, we've got a grid. On the pole is the aforementioned Alexander Russell. He is going to line up on the front row with teammate Jason Brophy. Nick Sudik is going to go from row 2. He'll be alongside Anna the Deer. Anna Klimek is going to start 4th. Matt Hollyball will be 5th. Alan Berteau is 6th. Kyle Clinworth is 7th. Caleb Brashear 8th. Nate Fields 9th. David Hinger is going to round out your top 10. In 11th, Robin Glakus. 12th is Logan Edwards. 13th, Matt Taylor. Rashad Craig did not set a time. Everybody from Matt Taylor on back did not set a time. Taylor, Craig, Spice, Ella Spice, Cody Grommel. That's a new name. Welcome to the top split, Cody. Same for Mick Seaton and Paul Boomershine. That's a name we've seen before on occasion. Those cars all did not take time, and so very interesting that you have the points leader, Rashad Craig, not electing to qualify. Got to be some strategy behind that. Speaking of the points, let's go ahead and show them Rashad Craig on 1,494. Alan Berteau second, 1,335. And the old narc brain, Logan Edwards, is at 1,252. That's the top three. Seb Alexander, who is not here tonight, he has 1,187. And Anna the Deer is on 1,143. And this is a track, Jacob, where if you're interested in that points championship, you can make up a ton of room. You can make up a ton. You can make up a ton with a highly rated oval split like this.
You can, but it's also very, very difficult to be at the front at the end of these races. You know, we see it time and time again. A lot of strategy can play out, especially the longer the race goes, the more chance for yellow to kind of put a nail in your strategy, possibly drop you down the field. We saw it at Milwaukee this weekend. A lot of guys were playing the strategy cards and got trapped laps down just given the timing of their pit stops and whatnot. So it'll be interesting to see how this race plays out with the potential for yellow.
Yeah, speaking of strategy, the race here, 130 laps. Fuel window, anywhere between what, Jacob? 45 and really 55 would be the upper edge of saving it. Anything else, you're going to have to go, you're going to have to get a ton of caution. This is a possible one stopper, but you would have to have a lot of yellow flag laps, would you not?
A lot of yellow and very, very light on the fuel map, probably a good bit of lifting, which is probably possible given what we're kind of expecting to be kind of bunched up here. If you can stay in that draft, kind of ride around maybe fourth, fifth car in line, just lifting through the corners, riding around, that might be doable. But again, you're going to need a lot of yellow, and that might be hard to do, especially given we're underway.
Here we go. Barney's got the green flag in hand, and racing has begun here at the Nashville Super Speedway. Lap 1 of 130. Alexander Russell leads him down through turns 1 and 2. He's got Jason Brophy, Nick Sudik, and Anna Klimek in tow. That front group all the way back to Caleb Brashear really got single file in a hurry.
I think people knew just how valuable that bottom is as we see Sudik kind of leave it and get trained from the rest of the cars gathered up on the inside as Brophy and Russell are basically broken away from the field at this point.
Kyle Clinworth worth the price of admission early. Clindy drills the high groove. He's going to come off at turn number 2. He's going to work to the high side of Matt Hollybaugh. Clindy started this race a little bit further back in the pack. He is already made up 5 or 6 spots. Clinworth, 3 spots rather. He doesn't grab the position from Matt Hollybaugh, so Clindy will settle into 5th. But a great start for Kyle Clinworth, one of those oval specialists. Talk about guys that could make up a lot of points here. Clindy is one of those. Matt Hollybaugh, he'll drop underneath Anna Klimek, move Hollybaugh to 3rd, Klimek to 4th, and now she'll be under fire from Kyle Clinworth as Alexander Russell and Jason Brophy are swapping at the top, Collins.
Yeah, you've got to wonder if some of these guys maybe in this second group, Hollybaugh and back, are looking to get to the front of this line to maybe get in a position where they feel comfortable, where they can kind of ride around, right? The less cars you've got in front of you, the less potential there is for potentially an incident, issues coming onto pit road, et cetera, et cetera. Just trying to get in a spot where you feel comfortable, can settle in, and maybe start playing the fuel number.
And maybe that's what Nick Sudik is doing. Nick Sudik started up at the front. He has already fallen out of this event. So Nick Sudik not playing fuel mileage. Nick Sudik is out of this race. He has already hit the ejector button. Sudik will be credited with 18th. As Brophy and Russell continue to swap at the front, the fight is really back for 3rd. You've got Matt Hollybaugh. He is giving chase, and Hollybaugh is chasing down both Russell and Brophy. He's got Kyle Clinworth and Anna Klimek in tow. Alan Berteau behind them. Then Caleb Brashear, Nate Fields, and David Hinger are the top 10. The top 10 have made a break for it. There's Logan Edwards. He is the last car in that draft. He is battling for 9th and 10th with David Hinger. And they've really kind of broken away. Rashad Craig in 11th. He is the points leader, but he is looking at about a second gap to that front pack.
Yeah, Rashad's made it by a couple cars here from 14th to 11th since the drop of the green. And you got to wonder if maybe he's going to try to get to the front of this line and try backing it down. It's unlikely he'll be able to reel in the cars in front until maybe later in this run when the tires start to slip away, maybe just a little bit. We haven't heard a ton of talk of tires wearing very much at all here since the aero configuration change, so be tough.
They did not wear at all in that in the fixed oval race. As a matter of fact, that was a point of contention in the community. They thought the tires should have worn a little bit. There was also some talk that this race might be a pack race, and indeed, Matt Hollibaugh and Kyle Clinworth have reeled in the leading power slide duo of Alexander Russell and Jason Brophy. Hollibaugh in that satellite entry, he's looking to dive to the bottom on Jason Brophy and maybe take away second.
Well, as they say, catching them is one thing, passing them is another. It's possible that through that kind of swap drafting, they maybe mistimed a run or two and launched into the back of this field here. Now they're going to have to play a bit more defensive, a bit nicer with each other even. But passing's going to be at a premium for sure.
You can kind of see that. You can kind of see that from the drone shot courtesy of Whiplash SimCams. Do want to thank Whiplash for all of their support of the P1 broadcasting channel, but you can kind of see it in that long shot. Jason Brophy has moved up to lane number 2 in turns 1 and 2 just to kind of block the arrow for the trailing Alliance duo. That's the satellite entry of Matt Hollibaugh and Kyle Clinworth. They are in comms together. And then you've got Anna the Deer. She's running along in 5th for Taylor Mills Racing.
Yeah, started near the front in 4th, down 1 spot, but ultimately that's not going to be too big of a worry, I don't think. So she'll settle into 5th there, kind of ride around, get her bearings. You know, she's at the front of a train of a lot of really strong cars behind her. Maybe she can see what they're doing behind her as much as the cars in front of her are. It's got a good spot to be in the middle of the big train.
That is a good spot to be in. Not really a whole lot of action. You've got the Luke Mansky cars of Caleb Brashear and Logan Edwards right here battling for 8th and 9th. That is Brashear on the top. You got Logan Edwards. Brashear is the blue-trimmed Luke Mansky machine. Logan Edwards has the purple on the roll hoop. That's how you identify him. They've got David Hinger trying to split up that Luke Mansky party, but there's those two cars. And we do want to thank Luke Mansky Racing Esports for being with us. Shane Coker has joined us. We've got Mike Rigney in here, Paula Scory. So, Clindy, your mom's watching. You be nice, brother. But good crowd on hand here tonight. Jacob, do want to thank everybody for joining us. If you haven't done so, make sure you smash the like button on the video, ring the bell, subscribe to the P1 Broadcasting channel so you can be notified of all future P1 Broadcasting iRacing events. Alexander Russell for Powerslide Motorsports leads his teammate Jason Brophy. They are 1-2. Matt Hollibaugh for Satellite Racing, Kyle Clinworth for Rogue Racing, and Anna Klinimick for Taylor Mills Racing round out the top 5. That Hornet-looking machine in P6, that's Alan Berteau for Fiercely Ford Racing with P1 Docs. Behind them, you've got Nate Fields, and then the Luke Mansky duo trying to be split up by David Hinger. They are 8th, 9th, and Hinger is, well, anywhere between 8th and 10th, depending on how you score it. Rashad Craig is 11th in the Indy Alliance machine, a Lone Ranger. No Seb Alexander tonight to support Rashad, but he has started to close this gap down. Jacob.
Yeah, you got to think with Hanger kind of holding that high lines, maybe dragging some of those cars towards the back of that train back just that little bit into the grasp of Rashad Craig there in 11th. So it's possible he'll be able to catch back to him and maybe do something here by the time he gets up there. You know, especially if those cars keep battling, they might be a little bit more on the tire wear side of things. Maybe just an air thing for some part of that. So still in it.
Yeah, he's still there. You see Rashad Craig closing in gobs of time on Edwards and Brashear. Hanger has now nearly completed that pass, but Rashad Craig is coming. He hasn't really been able to drag Matt Taylor along with him. Taylor still about 0.6 of a second behind Rashad Craig, but the battle is for 8th, 9th, and 10th. That's the Hornet's Nest, the top 7. Well, Collins, they're single file, but David Hinger is determined to make hay on that high side. He'll pull even with Nate Fields now for 7th.
Yeah, you've got to wonder if maybe some of these cars towards the back of the train are seeing what Hanger's trying to pull off here and are going to just kind of let him do his thing. You know, it's possible that eventually that momentum on the high side wears down, or he gets in a spot where he can't really roll it quite as good, especially if the cars in front kind of catch on to it. You know, as we see, I believe it's Caleb Brashear following him up on the high side, so clearly he's got people trying to come with him.
Yes, he does. We anticipate fuel stops to begin anywhere around lap 45 would be the smart money. So we are already halfway through this run as we're watching the battle for 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. It's David Hinger. He'll climb to the high side one more time on Nate Fields. The top 6 content to run single file, but Hinger is trying to make a fist of that high line. Now Anna Klimek pops out a line, and immediately Alan Berteau drops to the bottom.
Yeah, we'll see her kind of get a bit of momentum running that higher lane and be able to get clear in front of Berteau again. But it's definitely a big risk when you get cars alongside you like that, is because they can kind of drag you back with the side draft as much as you can drag them back. So it becomes a battle of who can kind of maintain the most momentum down the straightaways.
Now, Hinger's been the only one that we've been able to see make that high line work consistently. And Jacob, do you anticipate that's going to be viable? Is that a setup choice he's made, or is that something that you're confident that any of these cars can do? He's going to complete the pass on Nate Fields. There he goes. So he's got that done and dusted, and David Hinger is going to draw a beat on Alan Berteau.
I would put it more down to driver confidence than anything. We talked about it right at the top of the show, is that those corners on exit tighten up a lot. If you're running these higher lanes, especially alongside other cars like Hinger, now almost looking 3 wide as Klimek gets passed by Berteau, you know, it's difficult to hold that high line, especially when you've got cars still traveling underneath you. It kind of gets even tighter as the car kind of becomes another wall to your inside. So you're basically navigating 2 walls on either side of you, but one of them is just moving.
Yeah, and we saw Anna Klimek jump up to the high side there, took the air off of the nose of David Hinger. He had to jump out of the throttle, and that's going to let Nate Fields temporarily reclaim that 7th spot, Jacob. And now Hinger's lost all kinds of momentum. You're going to see Caleb Brashear. He's going to drop to the bottom. We'll see if Logan Edwards can follow suit. The front 6 continue to remain more or less unchanged, other than Alan Berteau getting past Anna Klimek. So drop Anna the Deer down to 6th. Alan Berteau moved to 5th. Nate Fields blinks a little bit. I'm watching Logan Edwards here, Jacob. He seems to be doing the old high entry, low exit thing here, trying to see if he can't find any way around the David Hinger machine. This has been where the action has been as Brashear will climb to the high side of Nate Fields. He's going to try to make that same line that Hinger was making work to his advantage and grab 7th spot.
Another thing you got to think with some of that entry travel is maybe he's trying to just carry more roll speed to stay out of the throttle a bit more. He is running behind a good number of cars and get a good fuel number being back here. And obviously, it doesn't seem like the cars are really able to run too far away from each other, as we saw the field kind of reel back in, Brophy and Russell following their foray a good bit ahead of the field. So good opportunity, maybe if you're back deeper in this field, to kind of just roll an alternate line and save the fuel.
You know, and that may be something that these drivers are looking at. Try to extend that stop as long as you can in the draft. This track is notorious for having a difficult pit entry. You have a choice here. You can enter either using the access lane on the left, but you don't have to use that. You can pit from turn 4 here in an official, and that can be a chancy thing, especially with the draft with the draft like it is here in the Conga line, and drivers are going to want to utilize that low exit.
Yeah, we talk about tough pit lanes. You know, Iowa's probably another one where you're basically trying to get down off the track in the middle of the corner while you're still turning to try to not even hit the pit wall, because that pit wall at Iowa comes pretty far down the outside part of the pit lane. So you're trying to stay out of that wall and make it down to the pit lane while basically still in the corner still. It's kind of a similar situation here, albeit, you know, you've got a bit more apron to work with and no outside pit wall. But it's a tricky one to get down to, just given the nature of the way that the turns kind of force everybody to the bottom.
It is indeed. Question about the weather from the Chad. It is 86 in the air, 113 on the track. Wind out of the southwest at 9 miles an hour. It's partly cloudy. It would be a beautiful day to be at the racetrack, but with this higher downforce package, Jacob, it tends to keep these cars stuck pretty close together, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think this might just be a bit of a byproduct of a couple too many things being changed at once, right? You know, we had a number of changes come to the IndyCar, and then this aero config kind of got swapped around the same time. You know, there's probably a good bit more drag on these cars than had been historically on them at this track. You know, we used to talk about with the speedway config that the cars would gap out way too much. You know, it'd be basically impossible to follow another car for longer than a couple laps.
Whoa, we're not impossible to pass now. We're 3 wide. That's Berteau on the bottom. He is followed by Caleb Brashear in the Luke Mansky entry. Nate Fields gets to the bottom. Kyle Clinworth just lost 4 spots in the space of about 2 laps. And now he's going to go all the way to the back of this line. Logan Edwards is going to get past. Anna Klimek is going to get past. And give a shout out to Robin Glakis. He'd been running around in the back of that second pack. Uncle Rob has moved around Rashad Craig, and he's going to draw a beat on Clindy and Anna Klimek. Move the battle back to the front, though. David Hinger has somehow, at what he's been anywhere from, 6th to about 12th in this deal. That front pack has gotten split up just a little bit, Jacob. David Hinger continues to work that high side, and he's been consistently up there. You mentioned driver preference, but he's also flirting a lot with that outside wall, especially on these corner exits. It's very easy to misjudge that, is it not?
It absolutely is. You know, we talk about kind of just corner angle, right? That back stretch is relatively flat, but the front stretch obviously is bowed given the D shape kind of this track. So you have to kind of attack each end of the turn a bit differently in terms of the entry and the exit, just keeping in mind just where the wall's going to be, because especially on corner entry, it kind of straightens out, but then it's very, very sudden on corner entry down that back stretch into turn 3 that the wall starts to curve in really quick, and you got to be timing it perfectly or you're going to wind up basically suction cup to that wall.
Yes, indeed. We're still on the roll hoop of David Hinger as he now works to the bottom of Nate Fields. You get the feeling, Jacob, that business is starting to pick up, knowing that pit stops are just around the corner again. We anticipate those to begin just about any time, don't we?
I think so, but important to keep in mind that there's a number of guys that might try to gamble. These cars that start maybe deeper in the field are going to maybe try and undercut, try and overcut, see what they can do to maybe make up some ground through the pit cycles, as we've been green this entire opening stint. So it'll definitely be interesting to see who can kind of hang out the longest and try to reclaim track position just through their pit strategy.
It will be indeed. Now, you are going to go at least 1 lap down here at Nashville by pitting under the green flag. It's going to be down to where you come out, and are you going to be able to latch onto a draft? Pit road entry and exit are going to be a thing. That warm-up lane, especially on pit exit, I think slick is a nice term to describe it. David Hinger continues to try to move forward. Now he's dropped to the bottom underneath Logan Edwards in that Luke Mansky machine. Edwards has been trying to work the top as Hinger was, and now he's got Hinger pinned to the bottom.
And this is not really a spot we've seen Hinger the bulk of this race. He's been running that outside lane, and now that he's kind of forced to the bottom, it'd be interesting to see if he's able to work that lane as well as he was able to work the high side earlier on in this run.
Yes, it is. Do want to point out that Alexander Russell, if you look off of the roll hoop, he is catching something. Or if you look off the roll hoop of Alexander Russell, he sees something ahead of him that he has not yet seen. Anna Klimek has popped down the pit lane, but that's traffic in the form of Paul Boomershine, and that's not yet something that Alexander Russell and Jason Brophy have had to deal with as dirty air from another car.
Yeah, that definitely changes the handling of the car, right? He may opt to start looking at what he can do on his tools to keep his car from becoming unbalanced as he approaches the lap car of Paul Boomershine. And Paul might just as well know that the leaders are coming up on him and maybe roll a bit out of their way to try to keep it easier for him. But that's the nature of the beast here when it comes to the IndyCar, is that lap traffic plays a huge factor, just given in your car and how it handles.
Yeah, we saw that in the Milwaukee race yesterday. Boomershine's going to pull up to the high side and let the leaders go. But we saw that in the IndyCar race at Milwaukee that you and I were both at yesterday. Lap traffic is a huge factor in oval track open wheel racing. Paul Boomershine elects to not be that factor. He will get to the high side and get out of the way. We are standing by for pit stops. Speaking of pit stops and whether that would make a difference, Anna Klimek just turned her first hot lap. She is by herself, and here's Anna just at the start-finish line, running about the same speed as the leaders. We'll get back to him, but she is a lap and a half in arrears to Brophy and Russell.
And that's going to be really tough, right? Because she pitted very early. She's all by herself, so it's going to be difficult to save fuel. It's going to be possible that she has to make an extra stop, pitting on, I believe, lap 42. That's going to put her next stop being around lap 64, which would put the next one on like lap 106. So that's a long ways to go.
Mick Seaton pulls his car down pit road. Mick has been running near the back for most of this event. We're watching David Hinger work to the bottom of Alan Berteau. Hinger determined to get to the front of this field. Klimek, if you do the math, Jacob, stop at 45, stop at 90. She's just going to split this into 3 even stints. We're looking at the leaders. They're going to try to go a little bit further and shorten up that last stop. Make it a stop and make it really a stop and what? A stop and a splash and tires?
Well, I think on 45 you're good, but Anna came in on 42, which would put you at, 42.84, and then 126. It's a couple laps short, so it would be a splash and go at the end. The leader's coming in at, say, 50 here. We've still got basically everybody out still circulating. It'll be maybe 50, 100, and then a lighter fuel stint at the end. Maybe put some new tires on it, depending on how they're feeling. Go from there. It's going to be tough.
Most certainly do. Alexander Russell is going to pull his machine down the pit lane, so Alexander Russell will stop from second, and here he comes. Be interesting to see how he comes out. The Black Power Slide Chevrolet inches its way down the pit lane. You see the butt kicker logo on the back, and we know what that means, Jacob. That is a Pro Series driver. He's going to pull the 27 into the pit lane, hits his marks. He'll go a lap down right here, and this is going to be kind of the mark. How much time do we lose? There goes Alexander Russell. He is off the pit lane, past the pace car. Very careful here not to lose it on this warm-up lane. And there goes Alexander Russell back onto the speedway. Now he is going to be passed by Anna Klimek. And so the short pit did work in Anna the Deer's favor. She is going to get past Alexander Russell and move into what would be, we think, close to the provisional lead. Matt Hollybaugh has gotten around Jason Brophy. Brophy is going to pull his car into the pit lane, as is Caleb Brashear, as is Rashad Craig. Rashad Craig almost misses pit lane. He's going to be followed into the pits by Cody Grommel. Rashad Craig very nearly missed the pit lane.
Yeah, it's very fortunate for Rashad that pit commit cone is a bit buried into the pit lane and not right on the commitment line at the end of the pit lane. Really close call for Rashad.
Yeah, we're going to go back and watch that. That would have been absolutely disaster. And you're right, Luke Mansky Racing Esports. Brophy almost bent it. We're going to ride along with Rashad Craig. He's going to have a beautiful view of all that. Caleb Brashear gets out in good order. He's going to beat Rashad Craig off a pit lane, and you're about to absolutely see why. Rashad Craig, you see Brophy smoking the tires ahead. Rashad Craig trying to gain just as much as he could, and he's going to cut across that painted Ford ad right there. But you're right. The commitment cone is all the way up here, Jacob, and that saves Rashad Craig. We're going to see the rest of the pack come back out. Matt Hollybaugh, Alan Bruteau, and Clindy have made their pit stops, and that is going to shuffle Alexander Russell back to the lead. Jason Brophy second. Logan Edwards, the old narc brain. What a cycle for him. Logan is going to come out of this third. Anna Klimek fourth. Matt Hollybaugh is going to be fifth, but Hollybaugh is about half a second back, and there's Bruteau, and then the rest of the pack is another half a second behind them. Do want to thank everybody for tuning this in. If you like the coverage, respect the stream, do us a solid. Smash the like button on the video, ring the bell, and subscribe to the P1 Broadcasting channel. Be notified of all future iRacing broadcasts. Beginning tomorrow night, it is the Techtopia Indy Oval Series top split, and they are at next week. Help me out, Jacob, or this week? Gateway, and that is a track that I love. I might be persuaded to pull the covers off the 69 for that one. I love Gateway. Is it
definitely one of my favorites?
Is it a night race or a day race?
Let me look.
While we've got Jacob researching schedules, Jason Brophy is going to lead it, and that front pack has pulled apart. Alan Bruteau is the caboose. That is a lapped car behind him. And then you see the four cars behind the next four cars. That's Caleb Brashear, Kyle Clinworth, David Hinger, and Uncle Rob Unglakis. Unglakis with a great run to the top 10. Matt Taylor runs 11th, Ellis Spice 12th. Rashad Craig is all the way back to 13th after that disastrous pit stop. Nate Fields 14th, Cody Grommel 15th. Mick Seaton and Paul Boomershine round out the runners. Nicholas Sudik is out of the race in 18th. We're watching Alan Bruteau as he tries to work to the bottom of Matt Hollybaugh. Hollybaugh is looking at the top of Anna Klimek.
Believe the Gateway race is an afternoon affair, Mr. Murphy.
It is an afternoon affair. That ought to be a good one. Gateway is such a fun track in these cars. I have to admit, Jacob, I am a fan of different. So like Gateway, Motegi, Iowa, Richmond, even this track to some degree, just because it is different. It is not a symmetrical 1.5 mile oval, and it's not the 2 mile D-shaped oval either. Indianapolis is kind of its own beast, but I like different, and I'm glad that those tracks remain on the schedule, both in the sim and in real life, because they do provide variety. And Gateway is a whole different challenge than you'll experience in any other track in the service in this car. Watching Matt Hollybaugh. He's got the Luke Mansky Esports machine of Caleb Brashear in front of him, and Hollybaugh has now adopted that David Hinger highline. Hinger made it all the way up to 5th before the pit stops. He's dropped back to 8th, but Hinger hanging in that lead draft, and he continues to work that high side. Hollybaugh is trying to get up there as well.
And what I'm noticing is that those cars on the high side, I think, are trying to rely on cars on the bottom fading up on exit. We see it here as Hollibaugh's back on the bottom, on the inside of Brashear, looking to make that pass. You kind of got to set up a whole lap crossover move to make passes here.
And that's part of the challenge, is being able to set up those passes on an oval. It's as Tony Stewart said, racing is not passing and passing is not racing. If we wanted to watch passing, Jacob Collins, we could just go set up lawn chairs and watch the cars go by on I-465. That's not the excitement. The excitement is doing what Matt Hollybaugh, Anna Klimek, and Caleb Brashear are doing right now, which is try to set up that car in front to make a meaningful pass to gain yourself track position.
You got to be smarter than the machine.
Have you ever have you done that, Jake? We'll do that the next time you're in Indianapolis. We'll go get some lawn chairs and a cooler full of refreshments and go watch cars pass each other on Interstate 465, the bypass around Indianapolis. I think it'd be a good.
That sounds like an afternoon.
I think it'd be a good time. You see all the passing you want. Right here, the passes mean something. Alan Bruteau jumps to the high side, and he'll try to take a spot away from David Hinger, who has been persistent in trying to get to that lead group. And Kyle Clinworth has made it back to the lead draft, but he's got He's got a high side full of Caleb Brashear. Logan Edwards looks extremely strong in that third spot. And Anna the Deer, the short pit for Anna worked out well too. She holds a very strong fourth, but she does need to save a little bit of gas in order to make that strategy work. I would imagine full save here for Anna. Gary Gonzo, the P1 impresario, checks in. I haven't driven on 465 enough. Ooh. We'll get back to that. Caleb Brashear just brushed the wall in the Luke Mansky Esports machine, and he'll drop to the back of this pack. Caleb Brashear is going to go to 10th, just clips the outside wall, just a little bit of a scuff. And that's going to allow Robin Glakis there at the back of the picture. Uncle Rob's giving it a good ride. Robin Glakis up to 9th, and he's looking for 8th on what could be a wounded Caleb Brashear.
Yeah, we're starting to see, again, a bit of more of that two side-by-side battle towards the back of this train. It's a bit further up this time as we see David Henger on the outside of Alan Berteau here. It'll be interesting to see how many of these cars opt to continue this, as Caleb Brashear's looking in between those two cars and almost probably thinks of making it 3.
Yeah, the white walling of those Firestones didn't discourage Brashear. He'll drop to the bottom and make the pass on David Henger, move Brashear back up to 8th. Or 7th, rather. David Henger will drop back to 8th, and here comes Robin Glakis. He's going to try to make the move to the high side. Gary, my problem isn't that I haven't driven on 465 enough. My problem is that every time I get to 465, I start turning left and I get lost. If you haven't been to Indianapolis, for anybody in our viewing audience that has not visited the state capital of Indiana, there is a bypass around the Circle City that is essentially a 25-30 mile oval, Jacob.
So you're saying we need that for the next NASCAR Super Speedway race?
I think that would be great. Just shut the bypass around Indianapolis off, block off the exits. They can run the Indianapolis 300. Just run 10 laps around the loop. I think that'd be a great idea, to be honest with you. And I bet Tony Stewart would show up to watch it in a lawn chair.
Yeah, we could get him to recreate that wonderful Fernando Alonso photo of Alonso up at the top of, I believe it's the Eau Rouge Radillon complex at Spa, sitting in his lawn chair with his hair over the end.
Could be. Poke Seon Man says there are orange barrels along that bypass. Yes, there are plenty of orange barrels. It's been under construction in one form or another for my entire life. Although they finally have the south side cleaned up where they've opened Interstate 69 to Evansville all the way through down there. I grew up in the southwestern corner of Indiana, Jacob, and I went to Ball State, so I've driven through Indianapolis in every way possible. Back then there was no interstate, and so you had to figure out the fastest way on your own, and it was a mixture of country roads, the bypass around Indianapolis, using the interstates through the city, but that's where you picked up time. Was around the loop and how you navigated that. Gary Godso checks in 52 miles. That's perfect, Gary. We'd have a 10-lap race around the bypass in Indianapolis. 500 miles, Jacob. 10 laps. It's perfect.
Yeah, the stage breaks would be about every, 3 laps?
Well, you just have a stage break on one side, right? Just throw the caution. Just throw the caution on the east side because that's where all the construction is. Parade them through there and then turn them loose, for 40 miles or so around the other way. We're watching this. We're watching the battle for the lead, and that's kind of what the whole pack looks like. Rashad Craig is 13th, and he is the first car not a member of this group. Craig Fields, Grommel, Seaton, and Boomershine are not in this lead draft. Excuse me, the rest of these cars are all in the fight. We are at lap 80 of 130 here at the Nashville Super Speedway. And Jacob, we have not, I hope everybody heard that. That is solid gun stock oak that's being knocked upon. No cautions as we head toward 50 laps to go, Jacob.
Yeah, and I think part of that was helped by a good bit of cars pitting on different laps, right? You had maybe like a half dozen at most hitting at the same time, so they were able to be relatively spaced apart from each other, able to slow it all down, get into the pit lane. We saw a couple people have a bit of a sore spot with getting in, but once they got there, it was smooth sailing from there. So we'll see if we can make it through another pit cycle under green here.
Let's jump on board with Clindy. Kyle Clinworth is working that top line. He's got Caleb Brashear underneath him. And now the draft has started. As you see Jason Brophy, they've started to guard. He and Alexander Russell have really started to guard that bottom. They're going to make people drive around them. If you're going to beat them, you're going to have to beat that power slide duo on the top. They are not going out to the wall anymore, Jacob.
Yeah, you got to think late in the run, they're going to want to try to defend the track position and keep from maybe guys getting them into the pit lane, right? If they can stay arced on the bottom, they're going to get the shortest lane of travel to that pit lane, get in, get out as fast as they possibly can. So the less they have to navigate cars in front of them or getting by them, the easier it'll be for them coming to the last portion of this race.
Well, and for guys like Kyle Clinworth, noted oval specialist, the desperation is starting to set in, Jacob. They want to get to the front of this train. They want to get there before the pit stops occur. We've seen drivers like Jesper Orman make these moves where they've ridden around in the back, saved the fuel. Once the pit window opens, they want to start pulling themselves to the front. They want to pit from the head of this deal, not from the back, Jacob.
Yeah, it's much harder to lose the track position if you can keep the pit stops clean and you're already at the front. So that's hopefully the goal for a lot of these guys, maybe trying to work their way through the pack, get back to the front before the end of the cycle here.
It most certainly is. Teal on, what shade of green is the Luke Mansky car, you think, on the top there? That's Brashear. What shade of green would you call that? Clindy in the teal Votive Racing League machine. On the bottom, he passes Caleb Brashear, and you've got olive green coming on the top. That's Robin Glakis as Clindy drops to the bottom of Alan Berteau. Clindy makes a bid for 6th.
I'm going with a blue-green on the Luke Mansky machine. He's got blue on the end plates, but then it's like a blue-green for the rest of the car.
There you go. And that Luke Mansky team is running very well tonight indeed. Logan Edwards 3rd. Caleb Brashear is 8th. He has been as high as 5th. We're watching Kyle Clinworth work to the bottom of the Fiercely Ford P1 Docks machine of Alan Berteau. Clindy has the slight advantage, but is not clear coming to the line. 44 laps to go. You're watching the iRacing INDYCAR Open Series live on the P1 Broadcasting channel. If you haven't already done it, make sure you smash the like button on the video, ring the bell, and subscribe to the channel. Jacob, we went over 1,300 subscribers last week, and that's pretty remarkable given that we've only been a channel for a little over a year.
Yeah, it's been cool to watch the growth, get rolling up towards that subscriber mark. It's quick and fast as it seems to be even on the track.
Yes, it is 13:08, and we do thank each and every one of you. Clindy not able to make the pass stick on Alan Berteau. He'll drop back to 7th, and now he's got problems in the form of Caleb Brashear. Paula Story has informed us that Clindy's machine is Baja Blast blue and green. Baja Blast is the color on the number.
Yeah, you know,
4.
like your favorite beverage from the Taco Bell.
Do people actually eat at Taco Bell? See, I'm of the opinion, and now we're going to get a sidebar discussion here, Jacob. I am of the opinion that that Taco Bell is kind of like Long John Silver's, that there's a secret society of people keeping Taco Bell and Long John Silver's in business.
Mark, that's not a secret society. That's called your local stoner.
I don't think I've ever seen a car in the local Long John Silver's. I don't think I've ever seen a single car there. Nor have I ever seen anybody patronize a Taco Bell.
Well, that's because they're hitting the drive-thru, ordering 50 quesadillas and leaving.
There you go. Speaking of 50 quesadillas, there's going to have to be some extra shell fuel go into the Anna Klimek machine. Ohe has checked in and said that she's going to have a longer refill time, but she can definitely make it on one more stop. Do want to give a welcome to Evan Adams. He thinks with a hybrid system engaged, passing might be a little bit easier That remains to be seen. Anna the Deer, very high going through turns 3 and 4. She lost 5 spots in one corner as she'll surrender 10th to Matt Taylor, move Anna Klimek back to 11th. And you think that's a situation where she's just trying to get clear to come to pit lane?
I think some of it's probably got to be that. She fades to the bottom here, which would lead me to think that's the case. We do have one chiming in chat that Paula Scory, Kyle's mom, indeed goes to the Taco Bell because her family goes to the Taco Bell, Mark. I think we've upset the cult that's keeping the Taco Bell alive, and I think we gotta owe them an apology.
What? We got a Noble Romans fan in here, too. Noble Romans is actually fairly decent as you watch Anna Klimek come down pit road. Clindy has moved into third. He's disposed of Matt Hollybaugh, and he'll work to the outside of Logan Edwards. Move Kyle Clinworth up to third momentarily, Jacob. Clindy is on the charge here.
Yeah, make this charge right at the end of the run, kind of sneak into the picture, get into the pit lane nice and clean, and that could put you in a contention to potentially even win this race.
You know, and if I know anything about Kyle Clinworth under the tutelage of Jesper Orman, noted oval racer, that's a Jesper move. Hang out in the back, save your stuff, come toward the front at the end of the run while everybody else is slowing up, trying to save that last extra drop of fuel. Clindy works the outside, and that's going to give him 2 advantages. The first is that Brophy and Russell are going to have to pit before everybody else in this line. The second is that if he can stick to the high side of Logan Edwards, he's going to be able to pin him down there, and Edwards is going to have to check up whenever Russell and Brophy do pit. So double advantage for Kyle Clinworth if he's able to stick up on that high side and he's got some extra fuel that could work to his advantage. And we are getting down to about the time where everybody is going to have to stop. Anna the Deer has already been on pit lane. Anna Klimek is now 16th, 1 lap down. But we're looking right about pit stops right about in the next 3 to 5 laps, Jacob.
Yeah, Ohay's chiming in with if they can get to 20 to go, there might be some people that try fuel only. I don't think that's out of the question. I just think it's if people can get that far and if they feel like that's a calculated risk they could take. We've seen the tires don't seem to matter too much, but for what I recall, they mattered enough if the race went yellow and you had a restart, because new tires were able to kind of get off the line a bit better, generate a bit more momentum early, but that may be a completely moot point if we get an entirely green run as we've seen so far.
Rule of thumb here is if you're saving fuel, you can get 3 laps to a gallon. It also takes about 9 gallons to change tires. So that would be your rule of thumb there. If you can have a fuel stop under 9 gallons, it's worth it to do gas only. And we saw that here, Jacob, in the fixed oval race, where there was very little in the way of tire wear. As we've got a Luke Mansky versus Rogue Racing versus Satellite battle going on here over that 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th spot. The Power Slide cars are using that to draw away, Jacob.
Yeah, we see Logan Edwards peel to the pit lane as kind of the first of these front runners to come to the pit lane. We'll see if anybody comes with him on this subsequent lap. But yeah, it's going to kind of start calling the cows home, if we will, in terms of getting people onto that pit lane.
Indeed, indeed. And there's the lap machine, I believe that is Ellis Spice in front of leaders. He's going to peel off into pit lane, but that could have been a huge boon for Jason Brophy, Alexander Russell, and so on. And that was Paul Boomershine, and he got a speeding ticket coming on to pit road as Clindy works it to the outside of Alexander Russell. The pro license does not deter Kyle Clinworth from trying to move it to the high side, and I think we're going to see the Power Slide cars here any minute. There comes Jason Brophy.
Peels off.
And that would
we've got about 6 cars here left at the front.
We do have 6, and that would lead me to believe that Alexander Russell is going to be the next machine to peel off into the pit lane as he fades to the inside. That's the universal signal that I'm coming in. He would also be calling that out in voice chat. A lot of guys will also text chat. Ooh, we've got a car in the wall. It's Alan Berteau. Berteau hard in the outside wall, and we're going to get a caution here. That's also David Hinger. is slow on the inside. No caution. And I cannot believe that, Jacob. That started with Caleb Brashear on the inside. Alan Berteau runs over the back of Brashear and straight into David Hinger. Both of those machines continue on. Hinger swerves down the warm-up lane directly in front of points leader Rashad Craig. Hinger trying to nurse a three-wheeled broken nose machine back to pit lane. Still no caution. Good job on Hinger to keep that thing moving and not cause the caution, but he is still not out of the woods getting that car back to pit lane, Jacob. And that is very tough to drive when you've got the front suspension broken like that.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Alan just wasn't anticipating Brashear to slow up on that inside lane there.
He does make
it looks very sudden.
He does make it back to pit road. Kyle Clinworth is going to hit his pit box. That leaves Matt Hollibaugh to come in, as well as Alexander Russell, and this is going to be the race off of pit road. Alexander Russell, dominant machine for this event. He is making his way down the pit lane. Russell, 50 of 109 laps led. He's going to pull it into his pit box with 22 laps to go. That car does go up on the jacks, as does Matt Hollibaugh. So, oh hey, there were people that made it as far as you thought, but they did not do fuel only. Alexander Russell is going to come off, and let's see where he blends in. Evan Adams checks in and says it can kind of be fluky a little bit. Caution won't occur if they're far enough behind the pack. Pocono can be like that, and that is true. There can be some fluky situations. No fluke is that Jason Brophy made it off of the pit lane, and Brophy made it off of the pit lane with a pretty decent sized lead over teammate Alexander Russell. But I'll tell you who he didn't make it with a decent sized lead over. That's Logan Edwards. Logan Edwards right on the back of the power slide entry as we head for 20 laps to go, Jacob.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see if some of these cars that are a bit more spaced out behind those two can reel them back in. We've got Russell about a second out, Clenworth about a second and a half out, but then you've got Hollibaugh, that's 3, and then it's about 3.5 to the next group of Brashear, Robin Glakis, and Klemick. And that's probably going to be the last of the cars that have any shot of contending for the front of the field come to the end of this thing, unless we get the yellow that we think we maybe should have gotten earlier, but we'll see.
Well, Alexander Russell's coming in a hurry. He's half a second a lap faster than the two cars in front of him. Just ran the fastest lap of the race, and he'll pull up behind he'll pull up behind Logan Edwards, and Edwards wants the good finish, but he swings way high. Russell underneath back to second, and now Clindy is going to have the benefit of that huge draft. I don't know that Hollibaugh and company are far enough back. They've got a lap car. They've got the lap car of Paul Boomershine in there, and maybe Boomershine can kind of serve as the bridge to get them there. But now Clindy has pulled up on the back of Logan Edwards, and he'll make this a 4-car fight.
Yeah, I will not be surprised if we see back to Anana Klemick reel these guys back in, especially as they start to pack up that momentum. Even if they are lined up perfectly, we'll start to slow Clenworth to the outside of Edwards.
Luke Mansky Racing Esports checks in. You know, I would not disagree with saying that Logan Edwards is one of the next big things. We've seen him on P1. We've seen him win in trucks. We've seen him win in Xfinity cars. We've seen him run up front in the open wheel machinery. That's a fast dude in anything he touches. Kyle Clinworth is going to drive around him in the third, and Clindy is going to go to work on that power slide duo in front of him. And if there's anybody that wants to get to the front of this thing, it's Kyle Clinworth. He is tilted at winning one of these open races for a very long time, Jacob Collins. He would be one happy guy if he was able to pull this off. So if you're Clinworth here, Jacob, how are you going to do this? You've got two teammates on the bottom you're going to have to drive around him, wouldn't you think?
Well, you'd have to suspect that, and that kind of looks like what he's trying. I think the thing that he's going to look to do is kind of build a run coming off the corners and stay as close as he can to them through the corners, right? You saw him kind of fade down the backstretch and get alongside Russell as close as he could, kind of pull him back, arc around the corner, lose a bit of momentum there, but that seems to be the strategy. You're going to want to basically try to pull them back just enough to get alongside of them and then do the same thing to the car in front. And it's much more difficult to do that 1 versus 2 than it would be, say, 2 versus 2 and so on. So be interested to see if he can make it work before the end of this one, as we've got another about 13 to go.
One thing you cannot count on is Jason Brophy and Alexander Russell, 2 guys that were in the Butt Kicker Pro Series. You cannot count on them making a mistake. They are not going to do it. So the question in the chat is, did Logan Edwards take tires? We did not cover his pit stop, although he was 5.7 seconds in the box, and that would lead me to believe that he did not take tires on his stop. And so Logan Edwards is 4th. The man he's battling for the points lead, Rashad Craig, not having the best of nights, although Rashad is clinging to a spot in that top 10, leading around Nate Fields and Cody Grommel, but they are something like 10 seconds off of this lead group, 12 seconds, 12 and a half seconds off this lead group. The battle, though, Jacob, is at the front.
Yeah, Kyle Clinworth's trying everything he can to try to pull Alexander Russell back. We've got Hollibaugh and Brashear and Iglesias finally kind of entering this picture here. We'll see if maybe they can make some moves and pull some cars back. Maybe we get a lane on the outside here generating as we see a couple cars. We're going to look for 3 wide here.
Now, would they be able? It's not like a stock car where you can get organized and have a line and a line of cars be able to go past another line of cars. It really is, even though it looks like a giant draft, it really is one-on-one. As you see, Clindy lost a little bit of momentum. Matt Hollibaugh is going to get past him. Now you're going to see Caleb Brashear go by, and Logan Edwards clinging to that bottom. Logan Edwards, though, is going to fall into the clutches of Kyle Clinworth and Clindy, going to drive by on the outside. One would suspect that the tires on the Luke Mansky Esports machine of the old Narc brain are probably just about toast.
I think the biggest thing we're going to see here is how the slingshot opportunities present themselves. We see Kyle kind of look to the high side on the entry of the corner there, arc down low.
What a move from Clinworth to the bottom, and he is going to go past Caleb Brashear into 3rd, and immediately the high side of Russell. Clindy's going to bid for 2nd.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting to, is that you want to be able to slingshot around multiple cars at once to generate as much momentum as you possibly can. While we still get a dirty air effect a good bit here, it's possible for you to kind of scythe your way through cars, even into the dirty air of other cars. So that's a huge advantage if you could get a run to generate it all. As we see wheel-to-wheel action going into 3.
Alexander Russell, Kyle Clinworth, extremely close going through the corner. We'll watch off the back because we've got a car on the wall. That's going to be, I believe that might have been Robin Glakis, hit the fence in the background there, or got really close to it. Alexander Russell was able to fend off the charge from Clindy that time, but now he's going to have to deal with a charging Matt Hollibaugh and a charging Kyle Clinworth. Clindy, huge draft off of Matt Hollibaugh. They go down the back. He's going to slingshot through Hollibaugh, and Clindy is going to try Russell one more time.
Yeah, it looks like the 2 Luke Mansky machines got checked up behind Hollibaugh and sent, I believe, Edwards into the front of Iglesias, and Iglesias might have broken his front wing. So he's out there on half a wing into the wall.
And this is news for Rashad Craig. At one point, it was not looking very good for Rashad. Logan Edwards has since fallen out of the top 5, and Rashad Craig, with a wounded Robin Glakis, could finish as high as 8th or 9th here. Meanwhile, we're going to see if this battle at the front can get any deeper. Clindy trying to generate that run at the top. Matt Hollibaugh looking for a way around the power slide duo. Is Alexander Russell going to try to pass teammate Brophy coming to the line? This is fixing to be one heck of a fight, and we are going to get one lap to go as we come by this time, Jacob.
I think we're going to see a move past any of these front two cars that needs to be made going off the exit of 2 and hooked all the way into 3, and I don't know if we're going to get that.
No, we're not. I don't think so. Hollybaugh needed to be able to swing wide, and Clindy was out there. Clindy, huge move to the top, and that's going to let Logan Edwards get to the bottom. But it's going to be all Jason Brophy and Alexander Russell come to the line. Brophy is going to win it. Russell is second, and Matt Hollybaugh will round out your podium. That was a good time, Jacob.
Certainly was.
For the win, it's going to be Jason Brophy. Powerslide teammate Alexander Russell is going to follow him home in second, and Matt Hollybaugh will round out the podium. Kyle Clinworth is going to be fourth, and give a shout out to Logan Edwards. The old narc brain brings it home in fifth. Kayla Brashear is sixth. Anna Klimek, Anna the Deer, fine day for her. She is seventh. Ella Spice brings it home eighth. Rashad Craig, after trouble getting on the pit road, he'll finish ninth. Nate Fields is going to round out your top 10. In 11th, Cody Grommel. 12th, Robin Glakis, after the broken front wing. He had a shot maybe to finish on the podium there until late contact. Mick Seaton is 13th. Matt Taylor 14th. Paul Boomershine is 15th. David Hinger 16th. Alan Bruteau 17th. And Nick Sudik, an early pedestrian here at Nashville. He'll be the 18th and final car classified. And we have already, let's see who we've got. We've already got Matt Hollybaugh in the waiting room. Matt, you've got Murphy, you've got Jacob Collins in the P1 broadcasting booth. You got a copy?
I got a copy.
So that was a heck of a fight between you and Clindy there at the end to see who could secure the bottom step of the podium. Do you think that your satellite machine had anything for the power slide duo in front of you, or were they not? What was it going to take to get by them, do you think?
A mistake on their part. Like this track is so gripped up and like trimming out. Doesn't really gain you much of it doesn't gain you enough of a top speed advantage to really offset the handling losses of attempting to take some wing out of it. So they just had it under control from the drop of the green. I don't like to say that, but that's kind of is what it is.
Jacob?
Yeah, I think the only way that we were seeing any sort of significant change in the leaderboard was through the pit strategy. Do you feel like you might have been able to do something differently in the pit strategy to maybe cycle you ahead of them, or was it just a full-on two-car lock at the front and you were basically fighting for third the whole way, no matter what?
Well, that last pit stop that I made directly behind Alex Russell, I did catch him pretty nicely on entry, but I think I had to take more fuel than him. I was running the 70% radiators, and most of the field was running the 54% radiator, so I was battling engine oil and water temp issues the entire race. Like the first stint, I was able to like get it into a leaner fuel mix and try to gain some fuel mileage that way. But like considering that the fuel itself is kind of a coolant at a certain stage, I just wasn't able to sustain that for stints 2 and 3. And yeah, if I could have somehow, I think if I would have had 54% radiators, I could have probably saved a bit more fuel using a leaner fuel map, and maybe could have got him on the pit stop. But after I loaded in, I think that's, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, great run to third overall. You were in the fight, had a fast hot rod all night. Matt, friends, family, sponsor, shout-outs. The floor is yours.
I wish to shout out Tom Abramitis,
I believe is how
Abramitis, okay. Yeah. He's the one who built this setup. I'm telling you right now, I'm using a barely modified fixed setup. I changed the gearing and played a little bit with the aero, but like the overall platform is exactly the same. Want to shout out my teammate Chad Simpson, who unfortunately he meant to sign up and he was signed up for the practice, and then he realized when it went live, like, oh no. So yeah, shout out to him. I wish he could have been here tonight. Shout out to Clendy and Rashad for kind of keeping me sane in voice chat throughout this race. Not technically teammates, but they're teammates tonight. Shout out to my mom. Hi, Mom. Yeah.
Very good. Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining us in the booth. Keep going fast and having fun, buddy. We'll see you at the next one.
Will do. See you guys later.
Yes, sir. That is Matt Hollybaugh. He finishes third, rather. My goodness, Jacob, it's been a long night. I don't know who finished where. For second place, we turn to Alexander Russell. Alex, welcome to the P1 Broadcasting booth. You got Murph, you got Jacob Collins up here with you. You got a copy?
Yeah, I gotcha.
So you and Brophy there had the race under control for pretty much the entire way. I think you each led an even number of the laps, and I don't believe you were ever headed except in a pit stop cycle. Was it a situation of work together and try to pull away, or was it just hold station once the final pit stop cycle had gone through?
Well, I mean, if everything went perfect, it would have been work together, try and break the draft, and then we can settle it between ourselves. But an interesting package here made it more just try and stay alive the whole race. I didn't want to make too much of a commotion at the front because that can just send spirals to the back. And it was just a lot of, all right, we're managing fuel numbers, who can lead when and where, and what needs to happen to get to the final stop and be up front.
Jacob?
Was a pass for the win ever in contention the last couple laps, or was it purely down to kind of riding around and seeing the race to the end?
I was trying to think of what move I can make coming to the line, because I didn't want to make a move too early. I knew that it had to be almost a big run at a turn 4. But Clenworth and Hollaba behind, I didn't want to leave myself open to just being shuffled to the back. So I was staying in line, trying to wait almost too late as it was until the end.
So I did want to ask Alex before we sign off. We saw a lot of guys working the high line, trying to make some moves. David Hinger got up there. Clenworth drove through the field on the high side. Did you ever think that was a viable option to make a pass, or was it strictly going to be the leader had to make a mistake?
I was a little surprised that Hinger and Clenworth made as much ground as they did. It was something where I noticed it and put it as a mental note later, just in case. I came into this thinking it was mostly going to be roll the bottom, keep it on the white line, and make your ground in pit stops.
Gotcha. Well, you start on the front row and you finish there, and so great run for you. Friends, family, sponsors, shout-outs, the floor is yours. Thank you so much for joining us.
I got to thank the guys at Powerslide Motorsports for the setup work. As it was kind of a flat-out race, but they did everything they could and built a good Q set. Kanan Esports for their sponsorship in the Coke Series. I'm very proud to represent them, especially doing INDYCAR here. It's awesome to represent their brand in Coke. And P1 Broadcasting for showcasing our awesome sim and INDYCAR product.
Thank you so much for the kind words. Mr. Russell, keep going fast and having fun, buddy. We'll see you at the next one.
See you at the next one.
Yes, sir. That is Alexander Russell. He runs second. And for tonight's winner, it is a familiar face in victory lane. Barely does he have time to wash the champagne out of last week's uniform before getting soaked again. It's your winner, Jason Brophy. You and Alex had it pretty sewn up at the front. My only question for you, Brofius, were you guys slingshotting trying to pull away and it just didn't work at the beginning?
Oh, at the very start? Yeah, when we saw what happened with Sudik was not being on the wrong set.
Oh, no.
I thought, oh shoot, I can, we got to nearly the draft range and thought, oh shoot, we might be able to go. I don't actually think we were the fastest, just because I think there were some people that chose the trim option. I wanted to be able to low line it. I figured if I could stay up front, if I could get myself up front, nobody could mount a charge. Even Alex was struggling to mount any sort of run at me there that would have meant anything. All that would have happened is he'd have shuffled himself to the top and then probably gotten shuffled. So, that's why he stayed in line, I think. I mean, maybe he'll say differently, but he couldn't build a run with the people being behind, a big enough run to mean anything. So it was better just to stay tucked in and keep second. And it felt like one of those single file NASCAR Daytona back in the day where the last card get dropped off the pack and it was just a single line around the bottom. Not fun. I'm going to say that the biggest intrigue was pit entry, pit exit, and that's about it. Not enough pace difference, can't make a second lane. There were some people that could make moves. I saw Kyle made pretty good moves up to second line, but that's just where he stalled out because the second car is flat out behind the first car, tucked up right under him, and it's just needs work. So hopefully they'll get that fixed in the build and we can have better Nashville back.
I will turn you over to my far more capable color commentator, Mr. Collins. What have you for Mr. Brophy this evening?
Do you feel like you learned something with the pit lane today? Because I think that was kind of the most interesting part of the race and where most people were making up a lot of spots if they were, or even just time for that matter.
And I would like to point out, before you answer that question, you had the fastest time on and off pit road. You did not speed, so maybe you're turning a corner?
I pushed that one. I pushed it right to the edge. I knew I was pushing that one, but I also knew the most important thing there was to be first off pit road. That last stop. So I pushed it. I knew I rolled a little extra speed on the access road to the cone after having done the first one and kind of checking up too early. I got it perfect. I'll say that. I've been a lot better at my pit entries ever since I switched to the. And now, granted, this has been a year and a half, but since I switched to the year, whatever it is, the Logitech G Pro, the load cell pedals. I knew there was a word I was looking for. Just a lot better at feeling the brake on that low grip situation, right, where you have no downforce. You're kind of, I feel a lot better at my braking, getting into pit road and stuff like that. So I've been a lot better since then. I really I haven't had that many problems. My exits still leave a little desired. This one was pretty good. And then I got pretty fortunate. Logan did the no tire thing. I'd been thinking about that. If I'd have been in the pack saving, that would have been the call, right? Just no tire, come back out with the 5 or whatever gallons at the end and try and jump to the front and see. But or even just pit right after me and do the same thing, right? If I only need 5 gallons at that point, try and take it and no fuel. But had the benefit of track position, got to see what would try out and see what I could do, or see what others did, or react and got out behind Logan, but then used the lap car to jump around him, and that was enough to kind of just hold the white line the rest of the race and don't mess up. There's a lot of finicky space if you miss the bottom lane in 1 and 2, the car's loose or tight. And so that was I'm talking, I'm looking for things to entertain myself the last 30 laps. But
you got to be.
At least I had to drive a little.
You do have to be very precise. That's quite true. If you miss, the people at home probably don't realize that. But if you miss the lane over there, especially off of 2, you can get into trouble in a big hurry, and it doesn't take much. But it was on pit lane where you won the race tonight. Other than Edwards, whose pit stop was 2 seconds quicker, I think you were 2 seconds quicker than everybody else. So well done, Jason. As always, you win the race. You get the mic. Friends, family, sponsors, shout-outs. The floor is yours.
Boy, I feel like I've been saying this stuff a lot. I want to thank Tommy and Ty. Tommy had a good finish this last weekend, but for starting up private label Team Hype, now Team Hype, I should say. I want to thank them. I want to thank my Power Slide teammates, especially Alex. We a little weird and decided to do some testing last night, just try out some different aero package stuff. Hoping the car gets a change in that, because the aero package is right. Like, it is what it's supposed to be in iRacing, but definitely there's some stuff going on otherwise that hopefully when they bring it back, we can compare the aero package and that stuff may still transition over. So a lot of help from him. You guys for broadcasting, so thank you. I go back and watch what'll be. I mean, there were battles in the pack, I'm sure, but you had to keep us entertained, and that's not always easy. So
the pack was highly entertaining. You and Alex ran away with it at the front, but there was a titanic fight from about 6th to 10th for most of the race. So it was entertaining, even if you guys had the front locked down. But thank you so much for joining us. Jason. Keep going fast, having fun, and we will see you at the next one.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. That is Jason Brophy, tonight's winner here at Nashville, and we are all set. Jacob, that was a record. We got in and out, got the interviews done, and we're out of here at 20 after 9. That's pretty quick.
That's what happens when you have a whole short oval race go green lights to flag.
And that is the way it was tonight. It's not always that way, but I'll tell you this: even though the front two had a huge advantage for most of the race, it was an entertaining race throughout. I do want to thank all of the competitors for joining us in this Monday night Indy Open Top Split. Next week is the season finale. It's going to come to us from Road America. In the chat, we are going. Well, we may do this Wednesday. We may do it Monday. It's going to depend on the competitors and so forth. We want to make sure that everybody is able to be there because it is the championship race. It is turning out to be a close championship fight, and so we want to make sure that everybody is able to be in that race. So check your local listings, but we'll have it right here on the P1 Broadcasting channel. Speaking of future races on P1, tomorrow night is the INDYCAR Oval Tuesday Top Split presented by Textopia, and that is coming from Gateway. That'll be live at 8:15. The Horizon INDYCAR Series is going to be coming to us Wednesday from New Hampshire. That is at 8 o'clock. The AMA is back on Thursday. That's going to be the AMA Blackmagic Studios Grand National Series from Portland. 8:20 is the broadcast start. Pre-race, 8:35 green flag. And then the Archway Industrial Coatings Truck Series comes to you on Friday from Darlington. Also 8:20 pre-race, 8:35 start. Saturday, we're going to have the iRacing INDYCAR Series presented by 4D Racewear from right here in Nashville, and that'll bring us to championship week in iRacing. For everybody at the P1 Broadcasting Network, Jacob Collins, I'm Mark Murphy, Gary Godso, our founder. We want to thank not only the competitors and the fans, but the people who really make this possible: the police, the fire, the military, the EMTs that drive the ambulance, and the nurse that greets you when you get to the hospital. Thank you all. We will see you next week.